anybody else to send a chat to Keira or send it to everyone, or go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the questions. But I'll go ahead and begin with the questions. You kind of gave the example of a way that you work with a portfolio companies, but can you describe more of how you work with existing portfolio companies?
For sure. So we are pretty hands-on in the approach that we take when it comes to working with startups. So I'll give you an example. So 2020 April, basically right after the pandemic hits a lot of people, a lot of companies that also included a few of our portfolio companies, unfortunately. Particularly, there are just two companies about to go out to market for the fundraising. Basically means they only have like couple, maybe quarters runway by the time, they were thinking of like fundraising, and basically they needed to like pause their plan because of pandemic. I basically started working with those companies as a pseudo CEO and CFO, like spending like 40 hours plus each week for like 7-8 months, basically until the end of 2020, to help them out with strategic financial planning, and also product roadmap, and also like their recruiting processes as well, because it was really hard to find the right talent during the pandemic. So I think that approach goes to our entire team as well. We tend to take a pause it and try to be more active when it comes to like making a decisions together with the company. So basically that takes like very deep level trust between us and the startup. And we also need to fully understand what the team is trying to build and how we can be helpful before we actually pull a trigger for investment. So I think like based upon the trust, it has been relatively easier for us to get a voice it and basically voice out what we think. And that also put us in a better position when like things like this happen, basically when we need to plug ourselves into the company operation. So I think that is a good example of how hands-on we can be and how supportive we sometimes can be for startups when they're in a tough situation.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear. Thank you. So we're starting to get some questions in the chat. One of the first questions asked, can you talk about more about your role as a lead investor, or if you follow, and what is your approach for supporting multiple rounds? So do you save any allocation for follow-on rounds? And then there's a second part of the question. Have you invested in electric vehicle charging infrastructure software plays, or have you done anything in that space?
Yeah, let me answer the first one first. I think at a high level, we tend to lead around, but have been pretty flexible. So we lead around because like we believe that we are the right partner, and there is a like synergy between us and startup by working together. So in that case, it's pretty apparent that it's for both sides. It's a benefit for both sides for us to lead. If we see there is a like great partner on the table who can be a like good partner for us and for the company, then we also co-lead or like follow the round as well. In terms of the reserve, so our ticket size, as Randall said earlier, up to 10 million. And we usually like reserve the same amount for the follow-on. That is equal to the initial investment. And if that answers the question, moving on to the second question around the electric vehicle charging station. I think like before that, let me step back and then share our interest in mobility first. And then I think that can like kind of plug well into how we think about like EV and then adjacent space. Basically, mobility is something we have looked at as a key investment from the very get-go, like since the inception of the fund. And there are like a few reasons. I think one important reason is like our team member have the background in mobility, and hence like that just put us naturally in a good position to have a like good deal flow as like someone a trusted partner in that ecosystem. And second is our corporate partner network. So we have like three interesting names who are very well-known like mobility players, and also have a strategic initiative around like mobility. So that would be like Hyundai, obviously one of the top OEM manufacturers, and also a lot of like telco players. Mobility is such an important topic for them early on, especially when it is combined with smart city initiative. So that also gave us a good advantage to be able to like better connect with kind of broader mobility ecosystem, and also support our mobility port goals better. And it's kind of like, you know, like flywheel, right? Once we see like good mobility coming in, there are like more like interesting company knocking on our door. So that's what we have been seeing for the past like few years. And EV is definitely an important topic. We look at like, you know, EV mobility from a few different perspectives. Most recent year, we have looked at a lot of like software enablers for EV and plus battery. We looked at like a few of the EV charging station ideas. We had a really hard look, but eventually passed on those for a few reasons. I think unit economics is the one key reason that we pass across multiple deals that I saw. But we are still interested in that sector.
Awesome. Lots of questions here in the chat, as you can probably see here. But thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
The next question was about your limited partners. Are they and where are they located? Are they in the U.S.? Are they in China or different countries in Asia?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things that we need to do clear here. But I think no Chinese corporate partner. I know like some of the companies are pretty sensitive about that, so I just want to like say that out loud. We have few US-based corporate partner, which are well-known names. For the confidentiality agreement that we signed, I can't disclose the name, but they are kind of well-known players. We have majority of our corporate partners from Asia, as I said earlier, but a lot of them have a global presence, or most of them, as a like Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 type companies. So eventually that gave us connection to help our portfolio companies expand into whatever geo that they're interested in.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Next one, what's your view on non-SaaS business models, such as providing physical service based on proprietary technology?
So is it about license model based on the like proprietary tech? Is that what you're referring to? Because like there are a lot of like different business model and pricing models than SaaS. So just want to make sure.
Yes, I asked this question, so thanks for answering. Not necessarily about licensing. It can be like even like physical providing services to customers on the ground. It is scalable, but it is physical and like working based on hardware and stuff like that.
So, okay, so it's just not about subscription, but you're talking about more kind of service-oriented approach.
Yes, we, for example, just to give an example, we provide agricultural spraying as a service based on spraying technology that we developed. So we spray for growers as a service.
Gotcha. Thank you for giving more colors there. I mean, one rule of thumb for us and probably for a lot of other investors is scalability. So it doesn't matter whether you do, you know, like SaaS model, like non-SaaS model, as long as the business is scalable. And basically that comes down to whether at some point you can grow still like exponentially, but don't need to burn that much money. And you can get more margin, like higher margin down the road, right? So if the business model itself can prove that, yeah, why not?
Thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. Next question comes from Eric. He asked, what are the key factors you're looking for in seed or late stage seed startups for you to invest in them?
Just to clarify, seed and Series A and later stage all together?
No, seed and like a later seed or an A. So really early stage. So what are the key factors that you look at for companies when they're that early? So seed and A.
Okay. So I think product market fit is probably like the common ground that we tend to start with for both like, kind of seed and Series A. Obviously, like at seed stage, companies have kind of lower revenue, lesser traction, but we still like try to figure out how strong the initial traction can get based on the pipeline data that they provide. And maybe like they only have, less than like 100K in revenue by the time like we talk to the company, but there is very strong signal that they are getting a lot of like pull from the market, from a potential client partner. That's always like great comfort for us. So I think while we keep the same rule of thumb to evaluate company, I think it's just a matter of like how much number they can show to us that eventually dictate whether it's a seed investment or like a good seed investment opportunity versus like good Series A opportunity, if that explains.
Yeah, so makes sense to me. Hopefully, Julian.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. I'll combine the next few questions here because they're about different industries. So I guess it asks, do you invest in climate tech, education tech, semiconductors, cosmetics, all those different industries? I guess talk a little bit about your experience in
Yeah,
those.
great question. Actually, I want to pull up our portfolio map again. Yeah, we have already invested in all those verticals. And those are also space that we are looking at a lot, probably except beauty, but it also depends on the business model. If it's just like probably like pure cosmetic, it's going to be hard, but it depends on the model. Like for example, ed tech, yeah, we have few great investment. We also had a good access recently, like Epic got acquired for a decent ticket size. And semiconductor, we have a partner who's dedicated to semiconductor. And like his prior role was at UMC, which is another like fab out of Taiwan. So he's a semiconductor expert, which is really rare in Silicon Valley nowadays.
Awesome. The next one is about healthcare. So have you invested in medical devices, or can you talk more about, you mentioned digital health and what interests you in that area?
Yeah, so again, I'm more focused on like fintech and blockchain and enterprise applications. So can only share the high level of how we approach digital healthcare investment, but happy to share from my knowledge. So from my limited knowledge, digital healthcare, we have a couple partners who looked at that domain specifically. Our investment has been more around like software enablers than the physical hardware. And I think the partner's most recent interest has been how we can collect data more easily and how we can analyze it using like machine learning. So those are kind of high level themes that I heard from him when he evaluated the opportunities.
Perfect. And we're bouncing around to another section. So this one's about retail. So what can you speak about any retail partners that you work with in the past?
Could you clarify what retail partners mean? Because like everybody tend to define it in a different way. So just want to make sure.
Hi, it's Amit. More about the retail in-store kind of solutions in terms of AI and things like that.
Sure. So we do, and we actually have a portfolio company that might be a good example for you called iFi. So basically, it's all like easier way to describe it, Amazon Go. But like everything is like proprietary, like everything was built in-house. Basically, they are trying to be a simpler and better version of Amazon Go. And actually, like they won a lot of like competition against Amazon Go type solutions. So for that solution to take off, it was crucial to connect the company with the right retail partners. And we have done that in the US and also in Europe, sometimes directly with retailers, sometimes with the telco partners we have, because like a lot of telco partners tend to work a lot with the major retailers.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Then it looks like, Amit, you also asked, do you have any presence or do you work with anybody in the country of Singapore?
Singapore, yeah. So we have a team on the ground, Indonesia, Malaysia. Actually, sad story there. Our guy in Malaysia was supposed to move to Singapore, but because of pandemic, he got stuck in his home country in Malaysia. But otherwise, he would have been in Singapore. So hope that answers.
Yes, thank you.
That's yeah, sounds like COVID is definitely far-reaching there.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next question comes from Gabby, who asked, what's the typical time between first engagement and the check? So when you write the check and then when you first help a company, what's the time for that?
It really varies. It depends on like how much of the information is already like prepared ready. And like some of the kind of like due diligence items are already like communicated between us and the company. So just want to kind of say that before I kind of generalize anything. But usually the range I've seen could be a week to 2 months. And for like in the case of like 2 months, I think it just like involves some back and forth. So basically the company was probably like already in the fundraising process, haven't really kind of built up the questionnaire and the data room for themselves. So basically that take a lot of like back and forth and delay the process.
Nice. Gabby, go ahead if you have something additional to add to that.
Thank you. That's all.
Oh, okay, perfect. I wanted to kind of piggyback on that one because I think this is an interesting area. Talking about this, just in terms of how you're kind of collaborating with the startups that are now you're a partner with. So I guess when you first look at a company and decide whether or not to meet with them, obviously you're looking at their pitch deck. So I guess this can be useful for most of the people in the audience here. So what makes a good pitch deck? What should not be included in that presentation?
You're talking about pitch deck specifically, like the first pitch deck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
First thing, I would say probably like not more than 25 pages. Or like if you can, like maybe not more than 20 pages. You can think of the pitch deck really as a like first date. So how I can stand out, how I can like get attention from the audience. And yeah, a lot of companies, actually all of the companies are onto something really big. So they definitely want to like brag what they do and like show off like all the cool things. But I think it's a matter of like kind of prioritization and selection on the startup side. So based on what we know about the audience and based on what we know about the market and competitive landscape, how we should like position ourselves, and that message should be included in the deck, or like that should be the kind of guiding principle for you to design and curate the messages in the deck. So I like kind of like simple deck, like less than 25 pages. But if the slide is like just full of text, that's also pretty bad in terms of readability. So I like to like see like some visual together with content, really kind of like more self-explanatory about the product and what you do. So a clear message. And lastly, the structure. I think like the simpler structure is always the better. So basically, okay, what's the problem? What's the issue and how you can solve it? Okay, who else is trying to solve the same issue? But how you guys or how we are differentiated in what sense? And how this can be a potentially like good investment for us and also for you. So that's kind of typical flow that has been more kind of like easily understandable from our audience perspective.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely good insights. Definitely have seen from my stance a lot of different pitch decks, but I think that's good advice in terms of what to include, what to not include. Yeah, and then my follow up for that would be after you conduct the meeting with them, how long does it take for you to internally decide whether to move forward or to stop at that point?
It really depends. Like for some of the like opportunities, it was just like very obvious that it's not a good fit in the first meeting. The company would know and also we would know. Then it's easy no. And it can happen like after a few rounds of meetings. Basically, like it's really hard to get a lot of information in the first date, right? So it takes like the follow-up meetings, and once we know more, like basically like peel one more layer and get to know more about the business and the team might not be a good fit, then the no can happen like after a few rounds of meetings.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And typically, how long does it take from the first conversation to actually sending the money over? What's the typical length of time that would be?
Yeah. So I already mentioned like a week to 2 months as a like typical kind of investment like decision time duration. For wire, like so the extra timeline is really to wire, right? It depends when the company wants to get money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess, what are your current focus areas now that we're in 2022? Something that you'd be interested in investing in this year?
Yeah, for sure. So personally, embedded finance solution is something I have been following quite a bit. So that could be embedded insurance, embedded wealth management solution, or the kind of like the pipe to make the solution happen. So that's one. Payment, especially in the US, there are a lot of like discussion around like real-time payment and basically how the B2B payment stack can get better. So once that change happened, I think there are a lot of like other pieces that need to change as well, in addition to the payment pipes, so or payment rails. So I'm paying attention to that as well. And also local no-code solution is another interesting space. I'm trying to see more application specific approach when it comes to no-code low-code. So it could be, for example, like financial transaction specific no-code low-code solutions. as an example. And I'm always like excited about new or newer financial applications. So that could be like something like as boring as like accounting solution for SMEs, how we can make their lives easier based on the data analytics. So it's kind of like broad themes, but hope that give you some sense around what I'm looking at nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good. Awesome. So we have less than 15 minutes left. I know we have a hard stop at the top of the hour for this session, but at this point, I'll open it up to anybody to ask their questions directly. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself and yeah, fire away your questions.
Hi, this is Hanadi. Thank you for the insights. Just a question. During the COVID period, 2 years ago, we saw people recommending that if you're going to raise and it's such a difficult and unstable environment, raise for at least 24 months because you don't know what's going to happen. Is this still the case, or are investors looking for a shorter period of time? Does it even make a difference?
Yeah, interesting question. So, I mean, we are out of like kind of pandemic fear period, I would say, at least like, you know, the venture war or venture capital war. You might have heard like, you know, a bunch of like funds like raising like couple billions in their new funds, and also like mega rounds, like everybody's coming in, like Tiger of the world, all the hedge funds guys coming in. So there are a lot of liquidity in the market. I mean, obviously that has something to do with the macro environment, right? Like the low interest environment has been like flailing that trend, the liquidity in the market. So as long as there is like more liquidity, that means like investor need to spend the money within certain time duration. Usually the time for the capital deployment is already like set, like somewhere between like, depends on the funds, but like usually like 5 to 10 years. So all those funds need to deploy that money within the life cycle of the fund, meaning either they want to just like deploy bigger chunk of the ticket or bigger chunk of the money at each time, or they can just do more deals. Basically, they will invest in more companies with even bigger tickets. So I think the latter is what we are seeing. And probably easier, has been easier for our portfolio companies to raise at on a better terms than before. So we have encouraged our portfolio companies to go out and like at least like tap into the market to see what the investor has to say. I think we have pretty good time window for fundraising, probably for the next probably year and a half. Don't want to kind of like go above that because or go beyond that because I don't know what's going to happen to the macroeconomy. So even the macroeconomy, like, you know, or if the still venture capital funds still have enough money to deploy, if the macro environment like start contracting, that could really change the path that they're taking. But I think for now we are pretty good, and our portfolio companies and all the startups that I've known have been actually like trying to go out and raise more, even when they have more money than before.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I do hear like that you should raise money now, like you don't know what's going to happen in a year from now, like those kind of, you know, rumors around those kind of, you know, investment. So thank you for.
You're welcome. It's very interesting timing, and I think this itself can be worth like another session just to kind of like deep dive. But yeah, the common consensus that I've seen among the investor, we have probably like very good solid year or like year and a half ahead. But if the markets start, you know, changing its course, then it could be a different story, even when the VC money, when a lot of the VCs have a lot of money.
Hello. Good
Hi.
evening.
Hi,
Good
Leo.
evening. Hi there. Well, I've seen that you are in digital health, but we're developing a sensor that will enable us to move into the digital health. That means that, are you investing in such situations? I mean, where you need to develop a part of the technology, which will be the sensing device, and then go into the digital health by analyzing the data in an area like diabetes or obesity, which is more very important areas, as you know.
Yeah. So I cannot, speak on behalf of the digital healthcare partner, but we have made an investment in a very similar approach. So we have a portfolio company called Actia. You can look it up actually. So it's a blood pressure monitoring, but with very high accuracy. So sensor, like their different approach to sensor and the data collection was actually like core to what they do. So you can look it up.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have a question as well.
Hi, Lear.
Can you hear me? Hi, another Lior. I was actually asking the question about the education tech. We have a product that helps dyslexic kids and adults be independent readers. I wanted to know, how can we continue the conversation between us? I mean, after the call, I mean, what's the process of introducing my company to Translink, and what will be the process after that?
Yeah, so I think Randall has all of you guys like contacts, and he was gonna be like a coordinator for you and like for me. So basically, because we have like 50 participants today, so I think it's gonna be hard for me to like get a kind of direct contact from everybody. I think that could be the process, right? It would be great, Randall, if you can confirm.
Yeah, so I have everyone here who registered for this event. I have all the information that you submitted, so that provides a good context for Keira about your company and what you're providing. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with her afterwards, and she'll go ahead and select the companies that makes the most sense for Translink and for moving forward with the conversation there. And for those folks, I'll send you an email to schedule a time with her. If you don't hear from me, you can always reach out to her as well. But this is what information that you provided, and then what she selected from that. So it's straight from the source. So that's most likely going to be the best way to work with her.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hi again. Do you invest in a kind of like a more blockchain, metaverse, NFT areas, just to understand in a general sense?
Of course we do.
I'll follow on with a separate question. I guess, what are your words of advice for startups who want to approach you with their decks or with their solution? What's the best way to approach Translink?
Simple deck. As I said, earlier, that really made my life easier, and also I think it's a like kind of great first step that we can take together. It would be great if you can like add like quick blurb about what you do together with the deck, so that I can kind of like quickly like connect the company with the right partner if it's not in the area that I'm looking at.
Yeah, makes sense.
By the way, Randa, I'm seeing a couple of questions that I probably didn't have a chance to answer. Do we have time to run those, or?
Yeah. Yeah, we have 5 minutes left, so we can, if you see something, go ahead and address that one.
Okay. let me do that. Sarid, are you investing in local tools? Yeah. Jeremy, so we usually lead around, has been like probably 70-80%, but we are still co-lead and follow. It really depends on like who else are on the table. And how to work with a setup that supports multiple of your verticals. Not sure what the question is about. Okay, Eric, you can like ping me just to kind of like elaborate this question further. Let me kind of skip to another question, just given the time constraint. Hinati, so I'm not familiar with the terms observability, like AIOPS, what is it?
AI for IT operations. So it's an intersection of a cloud data center infrastructure and AI machine learning areas that you have both, but I didn't see in the portfolio companies that overlap these two worlds.
Got it. Cloud observability. Okay. Yeah, that is a space that we have made a few investments in the past. And
thank you.
Yeah, already answered. Urban tech, interesting. Yeah, it's really hard to define what urban tech is, but because everybody kind of use it in a different context, but we do at a high level. So in that case, I'm defining urban tech more in the context of like kind of smart city or like smart building and mobility solutions. But let me know if you have different thoughts.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, contact wise, yeah, Randall is the go-to guy, so I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, I'll have a follow-up email after this. So this meeting has been recorded, so I'll be able to share it with you guys afterwards. And so that would work well. And I'll include other information in the email as well for that.
Can I ask another question, please?
Mm-hmm.
In the pitch deck, is it possible to, it seems as if you don't like, I mean, it makes sense not to have too many, not to be too long. Is it possible to make like short videos to explain or to show exactly what the product does instead of writing a lot of words, just to show it, and in a few seconds you understand something that will take a lot of words to explain?
Yeah, totally. I actually like love those demos, especially for enterprise solution, because it's like it could be less intuitive, but don't overkill is another thing. Because like I've seen like an hour demo video attached together.
No, I'm talking about few seconds, not.
Yeah, I mean, I think like probably like a couple minutes is really good. Like yeah, a few seconds even better if you can make that short.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Anyone have any last questions here?
Just how to contact you, because I think I have a very interesting startup for you. We are bootstrap. We are almost $1 million sales, and we're operating very strong in the US, and we are kind of fintech.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, I just posted my LinkedIn page, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay, so I'll just connect you by LinkedIn and then we can chat.
But yeah, the reason why I'm not sharing my email here is like I'm on Outlook. Is really terrible at filtering new emails, so everything goes to my spam box. So I'm gonna be terrible at seeing some of the emails from new user domains. So I think LinkedIn would be easier.
Cool.
All right, perfect. Yeah, thank you, Tomer. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, please send her a LinkedIn message and connect with her after this. That would be great. Yeah, Keira, thank you for presenting to us, answering all these questions, and telling how these startups can be successful. Really insightful, and appreciate you giving us an hour here of your time. to go over that with all these companies. It's been really great.
No, it was my pleasure meeting you all. And again, we are very excited about today's event and all the connection we can make today. And love to do more investment in Israeli companies throughout the year and onward. So thank you, all of you, to join us today as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Keira.
Bye bye.
Bye.